So Candice, now's a good time to share if you want to. So hi, everyone. This is Margaret Hirsch at Home with Hirsch's, and thank you for joining us today. And we've been going right through the holidays, right through everything with our talks now on wellness, because everybody needs it right now. So I was just saying, you think there's only one of you, but there's not. There's three of you. There's the past you, the present you, and the future you. So the past you can do nothing about that past you except learn from everything that's happened to you. The present you've got to learn to live every moment, enjoy every moment. It's just, every day is just fantastic. Just enjoy everything. I mean, living in Gauteng, I'm just happy when I put the shower on in the morning. Yay, there's water. I put the lights on. Yippee, there's electricity. You get excited about the most crazy things. You just love every minute. And of course, your future you, what do you want to be? And I loved being with the Mrs. South Africa's last year when they all said to me, I'm becoming the woman that I want to be. And that's what we have to become, the person that you actually want to be. I have evolved so much over my life, and I really am becoming the woman that I want to be. So I hope you all are too. But with that aside, I'm going to thank Jess and Stacey for joining us today, my co-host from Connectable Life. And Stacey is going to introduce our fabulous speaker today, Candice. So Stacey, come on in.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Margaret. That's such a powerful thing that you said. We do need to create our future selves. So thank you. Yay, Candice. Thank you so much for joining us today. This for me is huge. I want to hear all about how to navigate my emotions. So thank you so much for joining us. Candice is a neuroscience and emotional intelligence coach, using the power of the mind and emotions to help women and teens have impactful and powerful breakthroughs. She uses emotional intelligence assessments and tools, as well as the Enneagram assessments, to help clients to have a deeper dive into themselves, creating more space for self-awareness and ultimately change. Candice's passion is emotions. Right for today. Her purpose is to help people, women and teens, and her superpower is being a human that has had a plethora of experiences and so can really tap into my knowledge. She can tap into her knowledge to coach with a gentle guiding hand. Coaching for Candice is about being a co-creator of dreams and a decision partner. She is passionate about connection and communication and is excited to share her knowledge on communication for us today. So thank you so much, Candice. On to you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Jess and Stacey. I love talking about what I'm passionate about. And as Stacey said, that's emotions. I really feel like we have this superpower within each and every one of us that we can tap into that really helps us to live a life that is more intentional, with purpose and being our true authentic selves. And Margaret, you mentioned it earlier, like we want to become the people that we love. We want to become these people that are authentic, and in doing so, or to get to that point, I think utilizing the power of emotions can help us do that. So very excited to be here. Thank you to everybody who's joining us in the Zoom group and everybody that's live. So the topic is navigating emotions, and I actually love this word navigating because it really speaks into a gentleness and a flow in terms of utilizing that superpower of emotions. I don't like the word control or manage. I find it quite rigid and harsh, and I don't believe that it really helps us to utilize those skills in order to be intentional with the way that we show up in the world. When I think about navigate, I think about captains of a ship. So I'm not talking about these high-tech ships that we have that roam the seas today. I'm talking about the sailors that started exploring the earth. They really had to utilize everything around them to navigate their way around and where they want to be, utilizing the stars and the weather and the oceans. And this is what I feel we need to do in terms of navigating our emotions, is really utilizing the information within us and around us to show up more intentionally. So just very basically, there are two sides to emotions, I feel. The one is the emotions that we feel comfortable in. So the happiness and excitement and joy, and it's where dopamine and serotonin are released. So this is where we get from exercise or perhaps We get a big hug from somebody that we love, and it makes us feel really good, and we're comfortable in this space. The other side of emotions are the emotions that are uncomfortable. So we're talking about sadness and anxiety and anger. Sometimes emotions we don't want to feel uncomfortable in, or we push away. And this is where cortisol and adrenaline are released in our bodies. And we go into that fight, flight, or freeze mode. So that's very basically sort of the scale of emotions. For me, building emotional intelligence skills is really important because it helps us with our relationships. It helps us find balance. It helps us with achieving what we want to achieve. Like Margaret said, becoming who we want to become. We can start utilizing our emotions to do that. So how do we actually begin to navigate our emotions? How do we get to that point? Because it is a journey. It is a practice. It is a lot of learning and growing. And I certainly have learned and grown so much since I studied emotional intelligence for myself. And the first step for me is really about being honest with ourselves. So where are you with your belief around emotions? Do you feel, or do you know that you suppress your emotions? Do you feel like they don't add value to your life? Possibly you're the person that uses the terms, let's leave emotions out of this conversation. So really being honest with yourself about where you are currently with your emotions. I do chuckle at that statement because emotions are very much a chemical reaction in our bodies. We cannot leave it out. It's part of our physiology. It's part of who we are. And so really learning to engage and navigate with our emotions is important. Okay, Margaret, thank you for sharing. Yeah, suppressing them. I think where we grew up as children, we weren't offered the tools and opportunity to learn to engage with our emotions. I've certainly seen that in the women that I've coached. And so really being aware of those childhood patterns, that modeled behavior, that learned behavior. I certainly as a child was told, big girls don't cry. Girls are not allowed to be angry. What else was there? Put on a smiley face. It doesn't matter what you're feeling right now, just smile. We've got people at the house. We're having a bride, just smile. And so that sort of learned behavior and patterns set in and held me in that space until I started working with that part of myself. Yes, you must be sweet and nice, irrespective of what's happening inside of you. So really starting to be honest with yourself about where you are in terms of your emotions. Just a little bit of neuroscience on how emotions work, and I'm going to keep it very basic, but our brain perceives what's happening around us. So if you think of the sailor that's navigating the ship, he is looking at the stars, he's looking at the weather, he's looking at the ocean. This is what our brain does through our sight, our smell, our taste, our touch, and our hearing. Our brain is on constant lookout for a reward or a threat. And so obviously the reward state is those happy sort of emotions, joy, happiness, excitement. And then the threat state is the fear and anxiety that sort of, that we experience. So when that happens and we perceive what's happening on the outside, it's kind of like a chemical release, and it tells our bodies what needs to happen in that moment. And I just want to touch on the last 2 years. I know everybody's exhausted about speaking about COVID, but this is really relevant for today because I feel like in the last 2 years, people have experienced such heightened anxiety, such heightened stress, a lot of sadness. We've experienced so much loss. And so we're operating at this level that we are already stressed out. So cortisol being one of the stress chemicals or hormones that's released, it takes 20 minutes for cortisol to work through your body. And if we think about the last 2 years, we have been bombarded with the external information, the news, the numbers, the death rates, the this, the that, constantly. So we are not giving our bodies an opportunity to release that cortisol. And so operating at this level of stress, so our brains are on alert level all the time. And so I would like to share a little story with you, if that's okay, just relating to the situation. I had a client that got COVID really badly at the end of 2020, to the point that she actually thought she wasn't going to make it. Thank goodness she saw it through. She came out of it, but she experienced a huge amount of social anxiety, to the degree that when she eventually ventured out of her home, she covered herself in long sleeves, in a mask, in a visor, in pants and shoes and gloves, because she was so fearful of contracting COVID again. The one day she went to the shops and she was shopping and somebody brushed past her and she had an absolute panic attack in the store. She had to get her husband to come fetch her. She couldn't function. Now, 5 years ago, this probably wouldn't have had an impact on her if somebody bumped her in the store. But because those cortisol levels are so high and because she's so stressed out, so much fear and anxiety around it, it completely flattened her. So this for me is really important to stop and assess what we're feeling. What am I feeling right now? And that's why navigating emotions is so important. I don't know if anybody has any questions before I continue.
I just want to ask, you've been, as you say, we've been taught to control our emotions. I tend not to, but sometimes you can feel it boiling up. And how do you know when to actually let it go and when to hold it back? Because I'm a great one. I just let it out. Oof. And then sometimes you think, Jesus, if I just shut up, I wouldn't have caused such a ruction here. And especially I find women going through menopause. Oh my gosh. They come in and throw the toast at you. I had a woman the other day, threw the toast at, screamed, yelled, ran out. She found me when she got home. She said, I feel so embarrassed because she said, I'm going through the menopause and I can't control my emotions anymore. So it's a balance, I think, to control them enough to be normal, but not to go overboard. So how do you get that balance in life?
So not that I'm an expert on menopause, but obviously hormones also create huge havoc in a female body. I've got 2 teen girls, and I can tell you that hormones are creating havoc over and above their emotional brain that's just growing at a rate of knots. So there is that influence as well. I think for your client, just a lot of self-compassion, and I'm glad she phoned you because she obviously realized that she was acted out of character. But in terms of navigating that sort of state, it really boils down to self-awareness. So sometimes we act on this autopilot. Sometimes we just do things because we've been doing them for so long. And so if you kind of feel like you're impacting the relationships around you, maybe you are having a negative impact because you can't control your anger or you can't navigate your anger, and you see that people around you are avoiding you. So for instance, anger is an emotion that I have worked extremely hard on in my life. And when I realized that it wasn't working for me anymore was when people said to me, I'm unapproachable. I was like, me? Of course I'm approachable. You don't want to believe that you're that person, but that's when you start noticing what's happening. And I thought, okay, hang on, something needs to change here. And you'd start looking at patterns. So when I'm in this situation, this is my reaction and this is the outcome. And I actually don't want that outcome. And that's why understanding your emotions and what they're trying to tell you will help you have a better outcome. We don't always get it right. I default to my old ways of being sometimes, and sometimes it's just a case of reflection. So if you have responded in a way that is not conducive to the outcome that you want, spend a bit of time in reflection to ask, what did I actually want out of this situation? And what can I do different? Are these warning signs? I was going to mention a bit later, but there are physiological reactions in your body. Emotions are chemicals. So you get a tense shoulders, a whirling in your solar plexus, hot ears, increased heart rates. So if anger is an issue, you tap into that. Okay, right now, what do I need to do? Okay, Candice, you need to take a step back. You need to breathe. It doesn't always happen, but if you can get it right, I don't know, 80% of the time, 70% of the time, you're doing fantastic.
And you hear about people pushing your buttons. Now, my button is when I'm working in the store and somebody comes and says, your service is terrible. And I know it isn't, it's really good, but they've just had a bad experience. Your service is just terrible. And then I just went, hey, don't do that. And, to stop myself, I have to say, hang on, just let her say it's terrible. Let her think that. Now I have to go and prove her wrong, because but some people just push those buttons and you just feel yourself rising to the bait. I had a conversation with somebody the other day and I said, stop rising to the bait. Can't you see they're baiting you? So how do you control your emotions in a case like that? Do you just pull back and then they think, oh, you're a schmuck? Or do you go out and say, hey, you can't talk to me like that?
So there's 2 sides to that. The one is understanding what your triggers are. So our triggers are connected to our values, to what we hold important, Margaret, for you, it's about making sure that your stores are giving the best possible service out there. So when somebody approaches you and says, I've had terrible service, it's your baby. So you're going to get protective. You want to step in and react. Now that you know that, what can you do differently in that situation? Okay, maybe I just need to take a few breaths here and say, so a tough conversation is around getting curious. Okay, help me understand what's going on here. What was your experience? Although inside you feel like absolutely exploding, that's how we navigate, is just having that awareness and asking what I can do differently. And again, sometimes you trigger it and you flip your lid or you flip the switch, it happens. But like I say, if you can get it right 60 to 70% of the time, it's really about self-awareness. What is triggering me? I know that service is important in my store. My stores are my baby. When people say this, this is my reaction. So how can I navigate that a little bit differently?
Absolutely. And I think also, I like that word curious. So when they come at me at that, I say, I'm curious to understand why you say that. I know we'd had it in one of our previous ones where Stacey said when she was anxious, she changed the word to excited. And I think that's a big thing, to change the wording. It was, I get angry when they say that. I say, I'm going to be curious. I'm no longer going to be angry. I'm going to be curious. So I think that's a good one. Thank you for that. It was excellent.
Good, I'm glad. And I think in any difficult conversation, it's about getting curious. It's about asking questions, because we tend to want to get defensive because we want to defend ourselves and say, no, but I'm not like that. But maybe you are. Maybe there is an element of you that is showing up like that you don't want to see. Like, I didn't want to believe that I was unapproachable. Goodness me, I'm the most approachable person on the face of the planet. But obviously I wasn't at that point in my life. So it's a bit of self-honesty as well. So, yeah.
And Candice,
yes.
if somebody had to come to you and they are an emotional person by nature and go down that emotional track every time, so they get triggered and then they just naturally go down the anger road or the self-destructive path, what would your suggestion be to them to possibly change direction?
So this for me boils down to understanding your patterns. So again, the thing with emotional intelligence is it's stepping off the autopilot train. Okay, I don't want to click autopilot and let my life go forward as in how it happens. I want to be intentional with the way I show up. There's a certain outcome that I want. I want to be the person that I want to be. So how do I do that? And that for me is looking at patterns. I've got a really fantastic tool. It is an eye-opener when you do it, but it's looking at the situation from like a video camera perspective. So stepping out of judgment, out of blame, out of finger pointing, what happened in this moment? It's a video clip, and writing it down. What was my thinking around that? You know, was there any form of thinking? You ladies did a beautiful post last week about the connection between thinking and feeling. You know, what is my thinking around that? And is that driving a particular emotion? How did I behave? Again, stepping out of judgment, out of finger pointing, it is a video camera clip. Then you're looking at, what does this cost me to behave like this? So if I'm a really angry person and I lash out at everybody, what is that costing me in terms of my relationships? Maybe it is costing me relationships and important relationships. Are there any benefits to me behaving like this? Anger is actually a really good emotion if it is channeled in the right way. If it is destructive and hurtful and harmful, it's not. But anger is momentum forward. It's something standing in my way. I need to break through that. So there are messages there for you. So what is are there any benefits out of that? And then looking at what you can do differently. So it's a really fantastic tool to step out of that autopilot, out of that repeated pattern.
I think adding to that, Candice, a huge part of navigating your emotions is actually normalizing them. All of them, and that there's nothing wrong with being angry, there's nothing wrong with being sad, there's nothing wrong with being embarrassed, whatever it is, you know, those making the uncomfortable feelings and emotions as normal as the comfortable ones, because when we do that, we can start to lean into them, and when we lean into them appropriately, we start behaving appropriately. And I think it's also just having a really sound idea of the relationship between your thoughts and your emotions, and how these thought patterns become emotional patterns, which become behavioral patterns. And it's so simple on paper, obviously not always as simple to act out. But if you're aware of it, you'll automatically be starting the process. Just that awareness, you'll suddenly go, why is this always happening? Where is this pattern coming from? And just by having that simple awareness, I think you're already doing something about it. So I think maybe step one is just normalizing all of them. I mean, I had a little girl the other day who had an extreme fear of being embarrassed. And I don't think any of us particularly enjoy being embarrassed. But when she sort of understood that it was just another feeling, just another emotion, like the rest of them, she suddenly went, oh, so does everybody feel embarrassed? I said, of course they do. So I said, give me an example of when you're embarrassed or what could make you embarrassed. And she said, I don't know, if I trip in front of people. So I said, well, what are you going to do if you trip in front of people? So she said, I'll stand up and keep walking. So I said, yeah, and you'll probably feel embarrassed, but once you see it as just another feeling or emotion, you'll sort of walk through it, move through it and carry on the same as you would with any of the other ones. So yeah, like you say, they are part of us, seeing it as a part of you, and there's nothing that you can do to avoid any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like what you said about, well, basically for me, there's no negative and positive emotions. Emotions are data. They are giving us information. And I think when we start engaging, like you say, on that level where they're not good or bad, but it's our belief systems and the way we were brought up that we believe that. And as our children, being aware as a parent, how you model that for your kids, and especially with boys. I'm really like boys and men at the moment. It's not where I coach, but I can just see so much around emotions that needs to be addressed. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. But yeah, emotions are data. They're giving us information, and just normalizing it, that it's okay if you feel embarrassed. It's okay if you get angry. It's okay if you have a cry, long as we're moving through it. And I don't mean we must sit and overanalyze everything we feel. I'm just saying having that self-awareness, like you said, self-awareness is the catalyst for change. If we want to change something about us, we've got to start with knowing ourselves better.
And that takes courage, it takes courage to do things like that. And I find a lot of people, I'm a very courageous person. I wake up every day, I'm courageous, I'm a warrior. That's what I am. But a lot of people that I work with are not courageous, and they start to think, and even now, simple things like people getting back to work. I had a friend who's going back to work. She said, I haven't been to work for 2 years. I'm feeling all twitchy. Am I going to look okay? What should I wear? And I said to her, just go as you always were. And she said, and I could see she was having to draw on all her courage to do it. So when people need to draw on their courage, how do you speak to them and say, listen, just draw on that courage, pull it up? And they say, I don't know how to do that.
I think with courage, it's really about trusting yourself, which is really hard. It's about self-confidence. It's also about being honest and vulnerable with yourself. And maybe it just starts with acknowledging that, hey, I'm actually feeling nervous today. And it's okay. It's okay to be nervous because I haven't been to work in 2 years. And I suppose a bit around mindset as well. We can go down the rabbit hole of, oh my God, I'm nervous. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to wear. And we can feed into that ourselves. And it really is about, what do I need? It's a tool that I wanted to share today as well, is what do I need in this moment to be courageous? Maybe I can't pull on my own courage. Maybe I need to phone Margaret and say, I just need some words of encouragement today, or I'm feeling really nervous, so I need to reach out to a friend right now. So really transforming, when we get stuck in an emotion, is really transforming it. So what do I need right now? And maybe you can't find it within yourself at that point, but you can get support outside of yourself.
Yeah, what I said to you is wear red. I always felt powerful when I wear red, get something red, put it on and go out there and say, I'm going to make this happen, and I think we have to take control of those emotions and say, this is what I'm going to feel. I'm not going to allow this to take over my mind. And we go back onto the mind power. I love mind power, teach mind power all the time. Get back on that mind power and say, I'm going to take control of my mind, and this is how I'm going to feel today. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to be strong. I'm going to be powerful, and I'm going to, not let all these little doubts come creeping in, because I imagine doubts is like little fox terriers champing at your heels, the doubts and is it okay and that type of thing. So the old story when people say to you, is it okay? And like, and even Michelle Obama, every time she came out of an interview, when she was interviewed by Oprah, was I okay? How important is it for you to say, am I okay? And how important is it to tell yourself you actually are okay?
I think our brains will believe, because they like efficiency and they like patterns, they'll believe anything. So if there's anything outside of yourself that's proving to your brain that you didn't do okay, or whatever the case is, the brain's going to go, oh, you see, you didn't do okay. So it's
Yeah.
to stop it there and say, you were fabulous. You were absolutely amazing. Or you are going to be fabulous today. It's telling our brain what it needs to do sometimes.
So I see Brenda says, how do you help your daughters through the friendships, especially the hard ones? Because, and yeah, it's always, I was a very pushy mother. I know you find it hard to believe, but I was. And so, you know, I was always saying, oh, you can't mix with that person. They're not good enough and this and that. And then eventually I realized I had to just let my children go. And of course, to me, the hardest thing was the first time my daughter got her heart broken. She had this boyfriend who was just amazing. And then he broke her heart. And then I thought, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I've just watched the Joan Rivers tape where her daughter's husband had an affair and she had to, you know, take over and get that daughter's emotions right. It's very difficult. So tell Brenda, how do you help your daughters through their friendships, especially the hard ones?
That's a really good question. And I've been working a lot with teens and parents of teens in this last year, and friendships are a big one. So just from a teen perspective, when they step into teenhood, they're disconnecting from their parents. So you will feel, if you have a teen already, that little girl that needed you so much is not really needing you that much anymore, because her focus is now on her friends. And it's absolutely devastating when they've connected to their friends like they have, and they get cut out of the group, or they get spoken to badly. For me, most importantly, is having those conversations with your teen. They have to navigate it. They have to learn. It's their opportunity to fall and fail right now, where they have the support and guidance of their parents to help them learn resilience, to help them stand back up and carry on. This time right now is important. So having conversations with her about what is happening for her in her friendship group, what is really upsetting her, what does she think she needs to do, and how much does she value that friendship. You know, I coached a girl last year that her friends were horrendous. Teen girls can be so nasty. And they completely ignored this girl for weeks on end. She was devastated. And I had to ask her a hard question. I said, how much do you value these friendships? Because sometimes it needs to get to a point where they have to walk away. And that is so difficult, because those group of friends are not encouraging, lifting up, motivating. They're just nasty and they bring them down. So Brenda, maybe you and I can have a chat more in depth about this at some point, because it is quite a deep topic and something that I'm passionate about. But really keep those lines of communication open with her. Have real heartfelt chats where you're not judging, finger pointing, even telling her what to do. It's just asking questions, getting that brain of hers to think in the right way.
Do you think that young boys get over their teenagers more easily than girls? Because boys have now got to negotiate with the girls. They don't want to feel embarrassed to ask a girl out. She turns them down. They want to be macho with all their friends. One of the boys, you know, backslapping. And then you get to the boys who don't want to drink, and everybody else is drinking. And these don't. My son never ever drank. And it was always really difficult for him, because all his friends used to go out drinking, want to encourage him to drink. And he really never wanted to drink. So it was a difficult stage for him to navigate as well.
Yeah, I think there's a different level of nastiness. I almost feel like girls are undercover almost. There's like the sly nastiness, where boys are quite physical in the way that they do things. So again, for me, it's really about communication and having that conversation. You know, having that connection with your teen, that you can have these open conversations, and that they know that if they are being bullied or struggling with friendships, that they can come to you and say, hey, Mom, I'm struggling right now and I need a bit of guidance. And if it really gets that bad, that you obviously seek help outside of yourself if you can't navigate that as a parent.
I definitely think boys are as sensitive to it. They maybe just aren't as open about it. I mean, I know my boys are only 3 and 5, but their heart breaks if anybody does anything remotely nasty to them. So I think, again, they're sort of groomed to be harder than girls and to take on more than girls. But I think it still hurts their heart and feelings as much as it does with girls. So I know, yeah, just also standing up for yourself and setting those boundaries and having a good self-esteem and things that we maybe know as adults, but it's really difficult when you're trying to fit in.
Pendili says she still struggles a lot with low self-esteem. So, I mean, a lot of people do. I must be honest, I'm over it now. I think my age, I think it does get easier with age. There's no doubt about it. But a lot of people struggle with self-esteem and they start to think that they're not good enough. So I tell everybody this every week. Write on your mirror, Pendili, I am enough. It's written on my mirror in lipstick. I am enough. And just every day say, I am enough. You are the perfect you that you are. And that's what I say to people if they're struggling with self-esteem. If you say, even in your marriage, this is you, this is how you are. You know what I always say, you know how you know a friend knows what you like and likes you anyway. And I think that's really important. And the other thing is we have to leave some people behind on our journey through life. Candice, what do you think about that? You know, some people just, to me, if they're not picking me up, I put them down, I get out of there.
I think it's such a good point, because one of the in my teen course that I run, one of the topics we talk about is friendship and people around us, and how do they make us feel? Are they lifting us up and supporting us, or are they dragging us down? Are they making us feel uncomfortable about ourselves? You know, who are you surrounding yourself with? And even as adults, I think we've all experienced at some point shedding friendships. And sometimes it's devastating, but you can get to a point where you say, those people were no longer adding value to my life, and it's okay. Doesn't mean that I'm a horrible person releasing that. In terms of self-esteem, I haven't read the book yet, but I've bought it. There's a book called Comparisonitis, and I love the word because comparison is such a disease. It really just feeds into everything. So, Pendile, I want to encourage you to look at, are you comparing yourself to other people? Are you looking at the neighbor next door and saying, I don't have, and I should be doing this, and I should be doing that? Really looking at that comparison. I think that's a starting point, because we need to begin to love who we are. And we do get to a point in our lives when we're like, this is how I am, take me or leave me, you know, but it is a journey to get there. And so, yeah, look at your comparison. And I love what Margaret said, I am enough. That is my mantra and my saying. It's stuck on my mirror as well, Margaret. I love that.
Yeah. Now, just go through the other emotions. We know, you know, there's no saying you don't know what you don't know. So the emotions we know are anger, jealousy. What are the others?
Oh, there's a whole plethora of emotions, which I'd take the whole morning going through them. So what I was going to offer to everybody on the call is there's something called the Wheel of Emotion. And this tool is the powerhouse. This is your go-to. One of the most important things of actually building your emotional intelligence is labeling your emotions. So just out of interest for the people on the call here today, if you can quickly think off the top of your head, how many emotions do you actually know?
I was thinking about that. That's why I asked you the question. I don't know that many.
I know. So I am reading Brené Brown's book called Atlas of the Heart, and she speaks this. It's all about emotions. And she said in her research, there was when they asked people could label a handful of emotions, and really like that is the power starting to develop our emotional vocabulary. So if you remember when your kids went to school in grade 1, they were learning how to read. Lad sat on the mat. That's all I heard. Lad sat on the mat. Lad sat on the mat over and over again. They were doing that to hear the sounds and look at the shape of the letters. And this is what we have to do when we're building our emotional vocabulary, is take that wheel of emotion, print it out, carry it around with you. I'll tell you a little secret that I used to carry it in my wallet with me when I was developing my EQ. It's still a competency that I'm learning to grow, but it's learning those emotions, because there might be something that you feel like, I'm feeling angry today, but what is underlying that? You know, emotions are multidimensional. We don't just feel anger, we feel a whole lot of emotions at once. So really tuning into what am I feeling and what else is there and what else is there. And so in order to do that, we've got to have a reference point. So utilize that wheel of emotions. There's also a fantastic tool on the 6 Seconds Intelligence Network where I studied through. I have it stuck up on my wall because I love it so much, over and above the fact that it's pretty. But if you click on the emotions, it'll actually give you a bit of information about that particular emotion, about its intensity, what it possibly means for you, what it feels in your body, what it feels like in your body. And just on that point as well, you know, some of us have experienced a huge amount of trauma in our lives, and we've completely disconnected from our bodies. we've disconnected from our emotions, and we couldn't actually tell you. If you had to ask somebody who's experienced trauma, what are you feeling? They couldn't tell you, because they are so disconnected. So for people who have suppressed emotions their whole life or have experienced an extreme amount of trauma, I would want to encourage you to start connecting with your body. And so asking the questions of, what does it feel like? What are the sensations that I'm feeling when I feel this big emotion? And where do I feel it in my body? So my husband gets frustrated with me because I always talk about anger, and I'm like, yeah, but this is the emotion I struggle with the most. But for me, I feel anger in the back of my neck. I get prickly in the back of my neck, and my ears go on fire. Like I feel like they actually poke a red hot. And I know in that moment that Candice has to take a step back. And I have to either take a few breaths, remove myself from the room, or circle back completely the next day, because I know that nothing good comes from a conversation when I'm feeling angry and frustrated. It's not going to have the outcome that I want. So really tuning into your body and the physiology of what's happening for me in that space.
Yeah. And I think a lot of time you do need help there, because I know that I went through anger and I didn't realize I was angry my whole life, that my father died when I was 10 and he left us, and I was angry with him. I was really, really angry with him. And it took me many, many years. And I actually went to therapy to forgive somebody who'd done me down. And in that time when I was with the shrink, she said to me, but why are you so angry? And she also peeled back the peels of the onion, and went way back to, I was angry because my father had left us. When I had realized that and I reached that emotion, I actually went to his grave and I forgave him. I understood that he didn't die on purpose, that he just died, and that he didn't do it to us. It happened. And then as soon as I forgave him, I just felt that lift off my shoulder. And I've been far less angry ever since. And people who knew me when I first started work, I mean, I was hectic. They think I'm hectic now. I was much more hectic then. And now I'm a pussycat by comparison, because I could let go of that anger. So I think it's to get help to get to the bottom of that. And I see Charmaine now saying she's struggling at the moment to please everybody. You're never going to please everybody, Charmaine. I always tell you, 10% of all the people you meet will like you. 10% will not like you, no matter how nice you are. And 80% don't give a shit. So you spend your whole life trying to please 90% of people who don't even worry anyway. Focus on the 10% who do. And as women, we're taught to be people pleasers. We're taught to be sweet and nice and kind and do the right things all the time. Hey, I'm a real person. This is me. And I have one life. I'm going to give it my best shot. And as I said, your friends, those who like you, will like you anyway. Those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. So that's my philosophy. Candice, what do you think?
I mean, I definitely think it's important to tap into the people that add value to your life. But in terms of being a people pleaser, I am a #1 recovering people pleaser. And I can tell you my step out of that cycle or spiral was setting very healthy boundaries. It is extremely difficult as a people pleaser to step into that space. It does take practice. It does take guidance, because immediately you'll get pushback from people that go, but Charmaine, why are you acting like that? You've never done that before. And you go, but this is what I need right now. And then you start second guessing yourself, because people start pulling away from you. And you go, oh, but I don't want to upset that person. Okay, it's fine. You can continue doing what you're doing, but it's not okay. So boundaries are basically what's okay and what's not okay. What is okay for you right now, Charmaine, and what is not okay for you right now? And what is happening to you in terms of becoming a people or being a people pleaser, looking out for the emotions attached to that. So doing everything for everybody, there's a level of resentment. There will be a level of frustration. There will even be a level of anger. You'll get angry because you have to take your child's bowl to the kitchen 100 times because they didn't do it. But have you set that boundary? And it's just a silly example, but I'm just trying to give you a bit of insight into how that shows up emotionally for you. You will see that you will have those emotions of frustration and anger and resentment because you're not setting the boundaries that need to be set.
That is so true, Candice. And I really struggled with people pleasing as well. And a technique that I had to develop for myself was, obviously creating the boundaries, but to stop. And I wasn't allowed, I made a rule with myself. I wasn't allowed to say yes or no straight away. I had to say to the person, let me think about this and I'll come back to you. And that was my way of negotiating with myself, whether it was a good move or a bad move, and how it was going to make the whole situation, me included, feel. And from there, make the decision that was good for me and my family. And that has worked wonders.
Fantastic.
It's really good, because with anything that we do, even in terms of emotional intelligence, it really is about slowing down. We want to react, we want to answer, life is like go, go, go. But actually, a little bit of mindfulness, a little bit of, okay, hang on, I need to take a step back. What do I need right now in this moment? Can I commit to this? Can I agree to it? What impact is it going to have? It takes practice, it takes time. But there's a really, really good tool, is just taking a breath before you answer.
Yeah.
And Joy says boundaries come from a place of self-worth. It's so true. You know, you have to actually believe that what you want and need is as important as whatever the person's asking you for. Yeah.
Candice, I want to ask you, because we're employing a lot of new staff now. I've employed over 100 new people this month already. And but we go for, you used to go for IQ. What's your IQ? How clever are you? How many degrees you got? We don't do that anymore. Now we go for EQ, your emotional quotient. How can you control your emotions? How good are you when we speak to you? What do you react as? And so it's really, really important, I think, that people are emotionally strong at this time.
It's one of the top 10 skills that they talk about a lot. I don't know what report it was, but building your emotional intelligence or emotional quotient is said to be more important than IQ. I'm going to stick with that because I like that. But I think in terms of, in business and relationships, having a good EQ is important. If you know what you're feeling, if you can step off that autopilot train, off that spiral of a pattern, get curious, have good constructive conversations, being aware when you get defensive, because again, talking to somebody and you get defensive doesn't have a positive outcome. So in what I do in terms of emotional intelligence, we actually have tools that measure your emotional intelligence. It's done through artificial intelligence. It's a 70 questionnaire, and it actually looks at your personal emotional intelligence, which is beautiful, because then you know exactly which areas you can work on, what strengths you have to drive those areas that you can work on, to have really good EQ.
Yeah,
and truly, Candice, if you have a good EQ, you'll be more teachable, more coachable from an employer's point of view.
Yeah, because I always say I can train skills, but I can't train attitude. It's your attitude. Just give me an equation between EQ and attitude. What's the difference?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, well, attitude, we'd have to look at what emotions are attached to that attitude. So if they're coming with the attitude, what emotions are attached to that? And then we can look at where the EQ's at. And
they have to have a good attitude, a good attitude. I think it means that you're sort of approachable, that you are malleable, that you're not going to the whole, you're willing, you'll try your hardest to make the outcome. So what I wrote down is, now, what do I need to get the outcome that I want? And I think that's what we've got to say to each other when we feel that emotion taking over. I always literally feel it welling up in my body, like when you see those big waves coming, I can see it coming. And what do I need to get the outcome that I want? And I think taking a step back, breathing. Glenda and I do breathing in yoga, breathing to get that, to stop that tidal wave that's coming. You can feel it coming out your head, to breathe, to calm it down and say, what do I need to do to get the outcome that I want out of this conversation?
That is so true. I also see EQ as wisdom. Like for me, they go hand in hand. Because, if you're navigating your EQ well, you're navigating your wisdom well,
Love that. I think it really speaks into the outcome that Margaret was speaking about. If you have that wisdom, the inner knowledge to want the best possible outcome, you will slow down, take a breath, know what you need to do. And that's why I said it's really important to tap into your emotions, because they're giving you messages. And that's why I call them little superpowers, because they are powerful if we are navigating them in the best possible way for the best possible outcome. I want to be intentional with the way that I show up in life. I want to be purposeful with the way I show up in life, and I want to be authentic. And I know in order to do so, I need to tap into what I'm feeling.
And you need to set the boundaries as well. I think you've got to set those boundaries. Yeah. Sorry, Stacey.
So, Candice, a little bit off the topic of actual emotions, but as an Enneagram practitioner, what exactly is Enneagram, and how does that help you with your emotions?
So I haven't actually correlated the two between emotions and Enneagram, but Enneagram is a kind of personality type test, which is really interesting. And it sort of gives you an overview of you as an individual. And when you've got that report in your hand, sometimes it can make you extremely uncomfortable, but it is an opportunity for growth. So I love all these reports. And that's probably why I studied the Enneagram. When I got my report, it was like, holy moly, okay, this is me to a T. And utilizing that information to really be integrated into who you are. And I suppose from an emotional intelligence perspective, it's understanding how your emotions show up in your personality, and what is that driving who you are as well. I don't know if that answers your question.
And I think your emotions do show up in the personality, and that's when you've got to say, what type of person do I want to be? We all say we're becoming the woman we want to be. What that woman that we want to be, what type of emotions does she have? Now, tell me, are there good emotions and bad emotions, Candice, or are all emotions just the same?
So like I said earlier, I don't like to label them good or bad. I don't like to call them positive and negative. I think for the purpose of ease, people label them that. But I really like to feel that they are data. They are giving you information so you can really have the outcome that you want. So like I said earlier, anger is not necessarily what people would label bad. It's quite an energetic emotion. It's going to drive you forward. It's what you do with that. So like you said earlier, what is the outcome that I want here? If anger is going to get me what I want in a positive way or in a healthy way, then anger is good. But if anger is going to be destructive and hurtful, then it's not good. But yeah, I mean, for wanting to label it good or bad, you can. I just don't believe that they're good or bad, because it also feeds into the belief system that if anger or sadness is bad, then I shouldn't be feeling it. So that's why I like to flip out of that.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I just quickly come in? Because I think something that it really causes people anger, and they probably don't realize it, is the stuff that is coming into their lives from TV and from social media and everything. And it's especially affecting kids because they have it in their faces the whole time. And I see there are a lot of mums on this group, and I see that there are possibly a lot of children that might be depressed. And how do you get people to understand that this is something that could be causing a lot of emotional distress? And do you see that?
Yeah, if I understand your question correctly, are you asking me the impact of social media and TV on the emotion of anger?
On kids especially, and I think adults too.
I think definitely from a childhood perspective and adults to a degree. I mean, we obviously get riled up. The thing with emotions is they're contagious. Okay, so let's think about if you walk into a room and you walk into the room bubbly and excited, and I'm here, guys. You'll watch, if you are observant, you'll watch everybody in the room, the whole energy changes. If you walk into the room and you're like, morning, everybody, I hope you had a good weekend, the whole energy of the room, the whole emotion of the room is impacted. That's because emotions are contagious. And so when our kids are watching aggressive TV or playing aggressive TV games, it's obviously influencing the way that they're feeling. It's obviously allowing that emotion to rise up. And again, I'm going to go back to having open, vulnerable conversations with your children. Do not disconnect from them in terms of having those conversations. We are all very busy in our lives, but it's taking those moments to say, talk to me about this game you're playing. How does it make you feel? How does it make you show up with your friends? Does it make you want to like punch them, or I don't know, you know? But just having those conversations, for me, I'm passionate about conversation as well. And I think also as our kids step out of childhood into teenhood, as parents, we go, okay, well, they can, like, you know, they can look after themselves now, so I don't have to engage with them. But But it's actually so important to keep that communication and connection, because it's mostly teens that are, or early teens that are playing these games or watching aggressive TV because their friends are. So talk to them about it. Anger is good if it's not destructive. Anger is good if it's not hurtful or harmful. But it's really about having that vulnerable conversation with them.
And I think it's also, we take things very, very personally now. So as you know, I'm on social media a lot, and I get a lot of really, really ugly comments. But luckily I've got Shane who filters them for me. So I only see the nice ones that come out. It makes a huge, huge difference. But there are very famous people who have really been completely shredded to nothing by the comments that they've seen on social media. And so as people now with a brain in our head thinking, that person doesn't even know me, how can they say that about me? I remember with my daughter when she was on our advert, which is Hi, I'm Lucy Hirsch, there was a I hate Lucy Hirsch Facebook page. Not one of the people on that Facebook page knew her or knew anything about her. And for me as a parent, it was really, really terrible. And she actually was stronger. And she said, well, those people don't even know me, you know. And it was only the one day when somebody said they'd seen her in Santon City wearing thigh-high boots, a miniskirt and a tongue ring, when I knew that day she was 9 months pregnant and about to give birth. And then I realized these people don't even know anything. So I think we have to just say, I am who I am. I know that I'm okay. I am enough. And what other people say about me has got nothing to do with me. Let them keep it. But it's quite hard to do that when you're in the public eye.
And it reminds sorry, Jess, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think the other thing with social media and teens in particular is that it's a popularity contest and there's a lot of comparison. You know, there's a lot of people and it's a highlight reel, but you don't always understand that as a teen, and you see the life other people are living, what they have, and you start thinking about what you don't have, who you aren't, the school you don't go to, the clothes you don't wear, rather than what you do have. And obviously that's going to also be harmful to their mental health. I think as adults we can learn to understand which social media accounts, programs, shows, books make us feel good, which ones make us feel bad. If it makes us feel bad, possibly unfollow it. And maybe that's a conversation that parents could have with teens as well. You know, is there something you follow or watch that makes you feel bad about yourself? And if so, to maybe guide that they don't follow that, because there is this need for how many likes, how many follows, how many shares, and it's this popularity and comparison tool, social media. So
I just want to I want to comment on that as well. But Margaret, just going back to being criticized as a public figure, Brené Brown is my absolute heart and soul. I love that woman. I've read most of her books. And she's got a poem in there by Theodore Roosevelt. It's not the critic who counts. Please look it up. Please read it, because that speaks volumes into, if you're not in the arena getting your butt kicked, your opinion does not matter. If you're not doing what I'm doing, I don't want to hear from you. And I think your daughter was so incredibly courageous to say, they don't even know me. So, I mean, I think it's beautiful. So for those on the call, please Google that that poem. It is beautiful. It's got so much power, and it really speaks into that. If you're not doing what I'm doing, I don't want to hear your opinion, because you actually don't know the road that I'm walking and what I'm experiencing.
Absolutely, so good. And one of our other ladies wanted your 6-second thing. 6 seconds, please post on the feed. That's from Lynn McMaster. Will you put it, just tell us quickly about the 6-second one. We've got a few seconds left, so tell us about the 6-second plan.
Yeah, so 6 Seconds Emotional Intelligence Network is the company that I studied through. They're a non-profit organization. They're on a big drive to get 1 billion people practicing EQ. We host EQ cafes once a quarter on very pertinent topics, and they're free master classes. So yeah, they've just got beautiful tools. Their website's lovely. I will try and post it underneath the video, or get Jess or Stacey to send it on to you ladies, and you can have a look. It's got a lot of valuable information.
Yeah, and also Brené Brown's books are very, very good, and she just teaches you to be authentic, and I think she lets you know that you can let it all hang out if you need to, and whatever anybody says is, as I say, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind, so don't even worry about it. Oh gosh, we've got the whole thing. Mary Jean, gee whiz, Mary Jean, you've got it all up here. And so Mary Jean's put the whole poem in there, and it's really, really so true. But now we've just got to wrap up. We've got a few minutes to wrap up. So Stacey, a quick wrap up from you on emotional intelligence. What have you learned today?
This has been huge for me once again. Thank you so much, Candice. I've taken away a lot, but I've also, one of the things I need to do is do that, the emotional wheel for my family, because I have got every kind of emotion under the sun. And my 4 boys, I've got the ones who don't have like really any emotions, and the others who have far too much emotions sometimes, where you're just trying to calm things down. So I think that's key, is getting to understand our emotions and talk about them and just know what we're feeling, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so, so true. Jess, from your side?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just about stepping back, slowing down, and learning yourself, and normalizing all these emotions for us and our kids and everyone around us. And if I can sort of liken it to the stress bucket, where we each born with the stress bucket, and every day there's little things that fill it. And if we don't put little taps, which is our outlets, to relieve the stress, then eventually the bucket's going to overflow.
I'm going to borrow that one.
Same with our emotions. If we don't navigate our emotions, if we don't regulate, manage, whatever you want to call it, our emotions, and then eventually the bucket's going to overflow.
Yeah.
So thanks, Candice. Always learn so much from you. Yeah.
Glenda, just a quick wrap up from you. Glenda, what did you learn from this? You and I think we know it all. So tell me what you learned.
Yeah, Margaret, it's so interesting. I love what you presented, Candice, because it all spoke really clearly to me. I mean, but something that that I feel strongly about is that there is no point in being miserable. There's absolutely no point, because we put on this earth for just, you know, that we've just got a one chance here. So we've got to be happy, because if you're not happy, then you're wasting your life, guys. You're wasting it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Candice, a wrap up from you.
I want to say thank you for hosting me this morning. It's been, I absolutely love this space. I want to encourage you to keep naming your emotions, keep engaging with them. Don't push them away, please. The more we push them away, the more they intensify. Like Jess said, that bucket will just fill and overflow. So keep practicing your EQ, and I hope you have a beautiful start to your week.
Yes, and to the ladies who think that they can't let the emotionals out, let them out, let them get them all out there, and then you can look at them and say, these are out there. While you're keeping them hidden and keeping them down, you're not getting anywhere fast. And I think the days of keeping, you know, I was brought up, children should be seen and not heard. Today, our children are taught to express themselves. That's what it is. Life has changed. We have to change with it. I think it's all about changing our life to be better than we were before. So thank you to everybody who came in today. Thank you to all of the people on Facebook who were sending us lots and lots of amazing stuff in. And thank you to you, Candice, as well, for all the good work that you do for us women who always have to get our emotions under control, who have to get our lives going. And just to all of us, let's have a brilliant 2022. I just hope that everything is going to, this will be the year that all your dreams come true. And, you know, life is what you make it. Don't wait for life to go out. The one thing that I took from today was stop trying to be perfect. There's no perfect life. There's no perfect this. There's no perfect that. You don't have to be perfect. Just be the best you that you can possibly be. Candice, thank you so much. Thank you to Jess and Stacey and to Glenda for putting this together. Thank you to everybody who came in today. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week. And next week we have got Stacey. You did write it, but because I didn't remember.
Yeah, Shantae on managing our stress.
Oh, yes. Now, I believe that stress is fear. And if you can get rid of the fear, you won't have any stress. So let's come and see what she's. So join us next Monday for Shantae talking about stress. See you there. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful
Thanks,
week.
Margaret. Thanks, Candice. Thanks, Glenda.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much.